And you know, all of these developments today follow the snow we had earlier this week, and a lot of people are expressing concerns about the streets and the quality of the snow removal across the city.
Now, some of the roads had not even been cleared from before this last snow, and now Marion County reporter Lauren Kostick spent the day looking into the reasons behind that.
So she continues our live team coverage. What have you learned today, Lauren?
Well, Ann and Felicia, yes, a lot of roads here in Marion County that need a lot of work. Now, just earlier today, we heard from several elected leaders on both sides of the aisle frustrated with the city's response, saying it comes down to two things: the number of plows and the city's approach to residential roads. Now, back in 2020, the city switched from its 6-inch rule to connector streets. So instead of plowing those side roads after a big snow event, plows now only focus on these designated connector streets, meaning some neighborhoods will never see a plow. And that's something Councilor Jared Evans was never told until today.
We have to resolve these issues. We have to address these issues. And these people deserve to have their damn neighborhood streets plowed. You can't accept this. We've got to get to work and figure it out and address these issues.
And Councilor Evans said it likely all comes down to money, which again goes back to the state's road funding formula, where Indy is often shorted those dollars. Now, also, we spoke to DPW yesterday about this. They say they have invested millions of dollars over the years into their fleet and have right now about 107 trucks at their DPW facility. So we know that they say they're confident in their drivers and the city's plan to clear these streets.
Tonight, main roads and interstates are clear after we had those 2 snowstorms here in central Indiana just days apart last week. However, if you go to the residential roads here in Indianapolis, you'll see a different story. Many of them are still snow covered.
And now we're learning that snow plows may never actually come to some of those streets. Our Marion County reporter Lauren Kostick explains a city policy change is leaving neighborhoods on their own.
Before, when Indianapolis would get 6 inches or more of snow, contractors would be brought in to plow residential streets like these in Irvington. But that policy changed in 2020, now leaving many neighborhoods on the hook.
It's just, you feel like, man, no one really cares about you out here. It's crazy.
Tim Donnelly lives near 35th and Fall Creek, watching as many have struggled to get down his street.
And the frustration grows because we pay property taxes and it ain't cheap. I get the connector routes and that makes sense to do all the, but if you can't get to the connecting routes, you can't get to work.
Currently, DPW first tackles main and secondary roads. Then they clear connector streets. Those are the blue lines on this map. But that means all these gray streets will never see a plow. A policy that even caught Councilor Jared Evans off guard.
Our residential streets are absolutely packed, and if you don't have an HOA, you're left to dig out of this and just wait until we get a warm enough day where the sun comes down and melts it.
A change he calls unacceptable. Council Minority Leader Michael Paul Hart also agrees.
I think that's the biggest frustration, is that, we have a responsibility as a city to provide basic levels of services, and it looks like this time we failed.
According to the city, the 6-inch rule was rarely met, and the new policy allows crews to tackle residential roads without relying on snow totals. However, Tim says it's a two-way street. If you pay taxes, you should also receive basic city services.
So really our damage is done, but in the future, they have to really rethink these policies that give us some relief on these streets.
In Indianapolis, Lauren Kostick, 13 News.
A long and at times tense meeting regarding the city's snow policy, with councilors pushing back against leaders of DPW. Majority of them now saying this policy needs to change.
Other cities have far worse conditions than us, and they're out there plowing the residential streets. And we're sitting here acting like we don't know how to do it.
You say it's not a budgetary issue, so if I gave you $100 million,
it has not at all been acceptable, like not in any way.
I want to answer.
You're asking.
Frustration across the board as councilors demand answers and accountability from leaders of DPW, calling this latest snow fight a failure, not because of the workers, but the policy. Currently, more than 1,000 miles of neighborhood streets will never see a city plow. That's because in 2020, the city changed its policy from its 6-inch rule to a connector street strategy. So instead of activating contractors after a large snowfall, crews now focus on these connector streets. This map outlining the change. The red lines are main roads, the blue lines, the connectors. But that means all these gray roads are on their own.
I think it's very clear no one is pleased with how this response went, except for the people that administered the response.
According to DPW, the old policy was ineffective and contractors were rarely used. They say the new policy allows crews to tackle more residential roads without relying on snow totals.
We're evaluating a number of conditions in this decision, and it's not an easy decision. It's one that requires daily discussion.
13 News asked for an interview with the interim director, but was told he was not available. In the meantime, the chair of the committee is hoping for a joint solution.
We can work collectively and we can work as a team because we heard tonight we're all hearing the same things.
DPW leaders promise to continue conversations with the council moving forward. We also learned that some councilors are working on a proposal to possibly change this policy in the future. At the City County building, Lauren Kostick, 13 News.
And we begin tonight at 11 with snow. I mean, look, I know it was 68 today, a new record high, but we also know that's the exception, not the rule during an Indiana winter. So close your eyes for just a second and think back just a few weeks. Remember, you and I were digging out from back-to-back storms in sub-zero temperatures. Hundreds of city streets took days to clear. Others never even touched, including many residential roads. Well, tonight, city-county councilors wanted to change that. Our Marion County reporter Lauren Kostick shares this new proposal to bring more plows to neighborhood roads.
On the warmest day of the year, snow was surprisingly top of mind for the City-County Council. Specifically, Proposal 69
requires snow removal services on local city streets.
So what this proposal is going to do specifically, we've put a threshold. We're saying at 4 inches of snow or more, we want our residential streets included in the process.
Democratic Councilor Jared Evans is sponsoring the proposal after receiving dozens of complaints from constituents, a topic that created heated discussion from both parties during last month's Public Works Committee.
You say it's not a budgetary issue, so if I gave you $100 million,
It has not at all been acceptable, like not in any way.
13 News first reported on the policy switch in early January. That's when we learned more than 1,000 miles of residential roads, outlined in gray, are not included in the current snow removal model. Meaning if contractors are not called in, those neighborhoods are left to dig out themselves, regardless of snow totals. Under this new proposal, DPW would be given 60 days to change its policy. Councilors would also like to see improvements to bike lanes.
We're not the experts, right? So we're not telling them how they're going to do it, what they're going to do. We're going to give them some time to create a new policy.
In a statement, DPW said it looks forward to continuing to work with the mayor's office and the City-County Council to review our current snow removal plan and evolve it in ways to better meet the needs of all of our residents.
I think it's possible you could see some folks even recommend some amendments that might even lower that threshold. I think the mayor himself has even said that, maybe we should go at 3 inches.
As for what's next, this proposal will now head to the Public Works Committee. If approved, it will then go back to the full council for a final vote in March. At the City County building, Lauren Kostick, 13 News.
Tonight, relief for residents in a fury over Flurries. Indianapolis Mayor Joe Hogsett and the City County Council announcing a plan to clear snow off all residential streets the rest of this winter. That's if it amounts to 4 inches of snow or more. But this is just a temporary fix after the city's plowing protocols sparked frustration earlier this year. Side streets left snow covered when more than 11 inches fell back in January. Our Marion County reporter Lauren Kostick has been leading this coverage for us, and tonight she explains why a vote on a permanent solution was just put on ice.
The proposal to change the city's snow policy was supposed to be heard during the Public Works Committee, but is now being postponed to next month as the administration pushes out an interim plan.
Just an hour and a half before councilors took their seats, Mayor Joe Hogsett and Council President Vop Osili posted a statement instructing DPW to now plow residential streets when it snows 4 or more inches. It comes weeks after 13 News discovered more than 1,000 miles of residential roads were not part of the city's plowing policy, leaving residents to dig out themselves. But that's where Proposal 69 comes in. Last week, Councilor Jared Evans introduced it, requiring DPW to come up with a new policy. But a close vote on Thursday by the committee delays a discussion on that permanent fix.
So all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Those in support citing the need for more time and the recent hire of a new DPW director. But Republican Councilor Josh Bain strongly disagreed.
A lot of us didn't really even get a heads up that we were going to be doing that. You would think after last month's committee meeting and all the feedback that councilors received from our constituents that we would have acted on something tonight.
However, Chairwoman Kristen Jones calls the interim plan a win as councilors and the administration work toward a long-term solution.
Once you get that ordinance, it's not as flexible as an internal policy. And we want to make sure that we get it right. We don't want a worthless piece of paper. We want to make sure that it is a good, solid policy for the citizens of Indianapolis.
As for the proposal, the Public Works Committee plans to review and vote on it during its next meeting in March. At the City County Building, Lauren Kostick, 13 News.